15 minutes is where we start. Welcome to emotion management, formerly called anger management. Anger management, as a name, is more acceptable to things like court processes, to the general understanding of the public. We can understand anger a little bit better than we can understand emotion. It's a really interesting thing that happens when we start talking about emotion, and people tend to kind of feel like, ooh, I don't want to sit with that. And so today, in the next couple of hours, you are going to learn a lot of emotion management tools. We're going to talk about identifying emotion, several other things, and we're going to do it all in the context of the no such thing as a bully system. So a little introduction to myself and to the no such thing as a bully system. My name's Kelly Carius. I am a Canadian from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. This amazing bully-proofing system began to be created about 20 years ago when I was hired by 20 sets of parents to do something about a teacher who was mistreating their children in the classroom, their students in the classroom. And it was a crazy couple of years. It is a whole book in itself. And what I recognized was that we all use bully actions. We all use victim responses. It all has to do with that emotion that we're feeling underneath and our ability to grab onto coping skills and tools that can really help us make our way through those situations in a healthy, positive communication kind of way. And so I started writing No Such Thing as a Bully. So within No Such Thing as a Bully, because I'm a social worker, I'm a mental health counselor, I've done custody and access assessments for Court of Queen's Bench. So I'm an expert witness in matters relating to the custody and access of children for Court of Queen's Bench. I've worked in child protection. I've worked in formal and informal mental health. I've worked in crisis. I've worked with homeless people. I've worked in just a whole variety of areas. And what I see within all of those areas is that there's certain skills and coping mechanisms that we just haven't given to people. We wait for them to be in crisis, and then we say, hey, it would be a good idea for you to learn this. And so this is really meant no such thing as a bully, and this emotion management program that we're doing today is really meant to bring those skills to the forefront. Hopefully when people are not in crisis, they can absorb them in different ways. I highly recommend with this video and any other video that you watch it again at different points of time in your life, and you will really see a difference in how you take in that information. It's interesting how we absorb things based on where we are in our lives. So I've done this emotion management training in Musqueam for Samson Cree Nation for quite a long time. That dropped off over the pandemic. And so the intention here is really to put something in a format that is going to remain. No matter what happens in the future, people are going to be able to access this YouTube video and really be able to take it in as many times as they want. So let's have a look at what we're doing here. No such thing as a bully emotion management for Musqueam Cree. And we are going to be talking about the medicine wheel in this training. We are going to be identifying some issues that are specific to First Nations people in Canada and likely around the world. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to apply to everyone. So keep an open mind to that. We're inviting you to empty your mind and open your heart and examine your feelings and their connection to your past, whatever that is. So we're going to start. Here's the table of contents, and we'll see if in the 2 hours, if I don't feel like we got through enough of this, then I am going to set another session and keep going through it. But please know that you can email me at kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com. Let me just throw that into the comments. And I will send you this manual. And you can have the full thing on paper for yourself. I'll email it to you. So first, we're going to talk about knowing your anger. When you think about anger in your life, sometimes everything can feel like anger. You know, you fall down and it makes you mad. You break something and you're angry. Your kid doesn't do what they want you to do, what you want them to do, and you're angry. And so it's important to know, you know, kind of which things are your trigger. And so we're going to go through a few sentences here, and grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, and see if you can answer some of these for yourself. There's no right or wrong answers. You don't have to tell anybody your answers. And I want to talk a little bit about some of these questions as well, as you are brainstorming. So if I'm not quiet enough, you know, then again, pull this out later. I'll tell you honestly that it's awkward being quiet on camera and giving you time to do that work. So I want to tell you about the first time I remember being angry. And I was probably about 4, maybe 5. And it was Christmas time. We had hockey billets staying with us. We always had hockey billets staying with us. And these particular billets were really, they stayed for 4 years. And they were really, you know, very much a part of the family. And so I'm opening Christmas presents, and I open their present to me, and it is the ugliest green colored t-shirt that I've ever seen. And it had a girl on the front with really sticky out, messy braids and a big gap in her front tooth from where it was missing, and it said, "I'm a brat." And I took it, I took that shirt as like literally, this is what they're saying to me. This is what they think of me. And I was mad, and I had a giant tantrum. And I remember having to go up to my room while people were opening presents. And so I look back at that, and all anybody saw was this angry, screaming child. But what was really happening was all these feelings underneath. They don't like me. This is how they see me. I am just a brat. And so when we only pay attention to the anger, we miss all those emotions that are underneath. Sometimes it can be easier to see that when you go back to the first time you remember being angry. And that is why I'm encouraging you to do that. When I'm angry, it can mean anything. Keep in mind, there's no right or wrong answers here. When I'm angry, my body feels. So just think about the last time you were angry. What happened? What happened to your body? Do your fists clench up? Do you feel that tension in your jaw? What do you feel? I get angry when? For some people, they know exactly when they get angry, what those things are that are going to set that anger trigger off quickly. Feeling angry is. So what are your messages about other people's? What are the messages that have been given to you by other people about feeling angry? What are the messages that you've picked up on your own about feeling angry? Then we're going to look at other people's anger. So people who get angry often are what? How do you see them? What do you see? People around me get angry when? When people around me are angry, sometimes we have patterns of behavior that come out kind of consistently when we feel that anger around us. When my mother gets angry, when my father gets angry, he. You might change this. Maybe your mother and father haven't been around. So just think about who are your male influences in your life, who are your female influences in your life. What kind of modeling have you had from the people in your life? So now we're going to do a little anger self-assessment. And again, if you've got that piece of paper and that pen in front of you, all you're going to need to do as I read these is write down a number. So as I read it, 0 is not at all like you. Like that would not, and never in a million years would something like that ever trigger anger in you. 3 is definitely like me. Like, yeah, I will be angry every single time this happens. So I'm overcharged for something. I'm followed by security in a store. I drop something and it doesn't break. I drop something and it does break. Someone doesn't do a chore when I ask once. Someone doesn't do a chore when I ask more than once. I hear that someone is talking about me behind my back. I step on gum. I tear a piece of clothing. I'm teased. Someone stands me up. I'm blamed for something someone else did. I'm talking with someone who thinks they know something, but they don't. I am singled out for correction when the actions of others seem to go unnoticed. I do something I am regretful for. Remember, 0 is not at all like you, and 3 is definitely like you. I lend someone something they don't return. Someone steals from me. Someone gets involved in an argument I'm having with someone else. The person I live with complains about something I do or don't do. And you are talking to someone and they don't answer you. So now you're going to add up all those numbers. And again, I'm happy to send you this. This manual. Just send me an email to kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com. If you answered 1 to 5, you are a guru, or you are in total denial, or you are bad at math, and you need to get someone to double check your adding. If you got 5 to 20, you likely generally live in peace. People probably enjoy being around you. You might get angry if you feel like someone is taking advantage of you. And it may be that you could benefit from assertion training to make sure people are not taking advantage of you. If you're 21 to 40, you likely respond with an average amount of anger. Even people who have that average amount of anger can learn different ways to channel that energy. And so assertion training, anger management tools like meditation, affirmations, those can help you make good steps forward and really maintain that peace. And if you counted 40 to 60, you might be experiencing elevated levels of anger that are really affecting your life. So on the high end of this number, you might experience internal reactions and intense reactions that do not disappear quickly. And you might harbor a lot of negative feelings from the past. You might have a reputation of a hothead. And you will benefit from these tools that will help you work through and manage those anger reactions. Okay. When I do this workshop live, we brainstorm the consequences of anger. And we brainstorm the consequences of anger and write them down into the circle on this manual at the same time. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it would have been good for me to prepare pop-ups of all the kinds of things that we brainstormed over the sessions and have them popping up on this medicine wheel we see beside us, but I don't have that ready. So instead, this will be a little bit of a solitary brainstorming experience. So when I think about the consequences of anger, I think about a lot of emotional consequences, regret. Now I have to apologize. Maybe it started off and I wasn't even wrong. And now I lost my mind. And now I have to be the one to apologize. So it even that initial situation stays unresolved. And so I tend to have regret about that when I become angry. It splits me emotionally from the people who I care about and who care about me when I have that anger. On a spiritual end, it can split me from my relationship with Creator when I'm feeling that anxiety. And of course, within the First Nations community, we know that there needs to be balance within all four of these areas of the medicine wheel. And when one piece is out of balance, it can feel like everything is out of balance. Physically, anger can create situations where I am primed for high blood pressure, for heart attacks, for physical injury, simply by not paying attention through my anger to what kinds of risks I'm putting myself at. Mentally, anger clouds my brain. I end up with a sense of being imbalanced, more and more negative automatic thoughts popping in, more and more thoughts about that person that I'm angry with or that situation that I'm angry about. And it can feel like almost a loss of control of your thoughts when you're in that angry stage, in that angry phase. We're going to talk about the fight and flight response later as well and how that contributes to all of this. Back to spiritually and emotionally, broken relationships with people. Back to physical, at the extreme end, anger can end up putting you in a position where you were incarcerated, where you've lost all your physical freedom. Addictions, abuse can be consequences of anger, and a lot of times, all the time, when I'm working with a medicine wheel and I'm encouraging people to put their ideas of consequences or of tools into one of these categories, it's really important to note that many of them can go in all four, and it's really up to the person who is having that experience to decide where a tool or where a consequence belongs. So I might say, anger leads to mental health issues because that's all I can think about is that anger. And so I put that in mental. And someone else might say, no, that needs to go in spiritual because that's interfering with relationship with Creator. And so what I'm saying is that as I'm talking about these things, and we're going to be talking more about the medicine wheel when we're talking about the tools to manage emotions, you can put them anywhere in the medicine wheel. Wherever you feel speaks to you and is the right spot, that is where you're going to put the tools in the medicine wheel. We're not going to spend too long on consequences of anger because I want to move very, very quickly into healing tools. Again, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. If this particular medicine wheel shape and colors is not to your liking and is not the one that that you use in your culture or that you would choose to use, please look up another one or draw another one. As we go along and as we talk about the different tools, excuse me, we are going to be filling in this circle. I just feel like I want to reach out to where I have my circle and point for you. Anyway, we are going to be talking about several different tools that are going to help with emotion management. We'll talk about why they help with emotion management, how to use them. And as we go along, I want you to keep your medicine wheel next to you and just keep on writing the tools where you think they go in the medicine wheel. What that does for you is that when you're done this little 2-hour course, you've got something that you can stick right onto your refrigerator and remind you of the things that we talked about in the course. That is going to give you that boost, that bump, that ability to remember everything that happened in this 2-hour session. A lot of times people go through little courses like this and just, don't remember what all was in it. And so this is meant to prevent that. Okay. We're going to talk about emotions first. And I'm going to first create some context around emotion. Let me stop this screen. Okay. So in my time as a counselor, in my 20 some years, I always say 20, no matter how old I am. I just leave it always at 20. Anyway, in my 20 years of experience, what I've seen often is people who have been taught not to express anger. So think about what kind of home you come from, what kind of acceptance there typically has been to that expression of anger. So speaking to the First Nations experience just for a moment, and there's going to be correlations with this for other people in other ways. I always want it to be acknowledged that when residential schools started, a generation of children were taken from their parents and put in residential schools. Now, no matter what anybody wants to talk about, went on there or didn't go on there, or what you want to, whatever beliefs you want to have around that. The fact is, a generation of children were taken away from their parents and grew up in their formative years without family parenting skills. And then they grew up and they started having children. And they didn't have those parenting skills. And they didn't have the permission to express any emotion, pulled away from their families, placed in schools, and nobody really wanted to hear how they felt about anything, or their original language, or any of that. So a whole generation grows up without parenting in a family and without permission to express how they feel. And so now we got to work with that and grab that emotion back. It's not only First Nation families. My family were pioneer stock, and there was not a lot of talk about emotions. Some families are really sports-oriented families who put the game above talking about feelings about the game. So there's all kinds of ways that all of us have been stunted in expressing emotion. And that is something that we can take back in our personal lives, and in our work lives, and particularly in our family lives. So back to that screen share. Anger is the bodyguard of fear and sadness. When you feel that anger, I encourage you to dig in and see what is the emotion underneath that anger. What is it's going to be a weaker emotion, what society considers a weaker emotion, which is kind of funny, because you can go into work and get angry, and that's going to be received in a actually more positive way than if you go into work and you cry. So society considers the emotions underlying anger to be weaker, and that makes it hard for us sometimes to be able to admit what they are. And so it might be things like denial, like grief, like fear, hopelessness, embarrassment, guilt, rejection, lack of appreciation. When you're feeling angry, if you can dig into what is the emotion underneath it, and how do I solve that emotion underneath it, you're going to move through that anger more quickly, and you're going to prevent anger related to that in the future. So here's an example. If the problem is that I don't feel appreciated, and that is creating this anger in me, then I need to identify that that's what the feeling is. I feel unappreciated. And then I need to express that feeling and do what I can to change that situation. And now we're using that emotion to change the situation to totally eliminate the anger. And that's why we call this emotion management instead of anger management. For me, it's like anger management implies that there's always going to be anger, and you just have to learn how to manage it. So in this way of thinking, we are actually creating a situation where we can eliminate anger. So every time that anger feeling is happening, and again, we're going to talk about fight, flight, and freeze response again, which is part of this. Every time that anger feeling happens, if you can identify what is that emotion underneath it, and what do I need to do to resolve that emotion, you are completely resolving the anger instead of just coping with it. Please do, hopefully I'm seeing comments. If any are going up, please do post a comment. And if I don't see it while I'm talking here, I will make sure to get to it in the comments afterwards. Awesome. I understand. Thank you so much. I remember seeing I'm trying to remember your first name. But I remember seeing your Facebook post earlier. So thank you so much for joining. Okay. Oh, look, fight, flight, or freeze response. So when I talk to kids about fight, flight, or freeze response, very often a light bulb goes on for them, like it's just amazing. It's just amazing. They can all of a sudden identify how their body is physiologically reacting to something. So the way that I explain it to kids is like this. I'm just gonna stop this screen share for a minute. So the way that I share it with kids is I say, we all have a fight, flight, or freeze response. When that happens, when we feel threatened by something, the blood goes out of our brain and it goes into our big muscles, our arms and our legs, to get us ready to fight or ready to run. And sometimes we just can't even move at all. And then while that blood is in our big muscles getting us ready to fight or ready to run, a lot of times we keep on trying to use our brain and we say things that we regret. Or sometimes we will physically lash out and afterwards we'll be like, whoa, you know what? I didn't mean to do that. And then I'll ask them, have you ever done something that afterwards you were like, that's not what I meant to do. I don't know why I did that or why I said that. And of course, kids will put their hands up. And then I explain that is a fight, flight, and freeze response. And when you know what that is for you, it's a little different for everybody, but when you know what it is for you, you can grab onto it, take some deep breaths, and get that blood back up into your brain. Whenever anybody's telling you to count to 10, to take a walk around the block, to take deep breaths, what they're actually telling you is that if you do these things, you will get the oxygen and the blood back into your brain. And you will be able to think better and actually make a response, make a planned response to this situation. Now, a lot of people don't even know that we have this physical, biological fight or flight response. When we have that fight or flight response, we get a shot of adrenaline. We sometimes feel that butterflies or feel like you have to go to the bathroom. That's because your body is thinking that it has to lighten itself so that it can make a fast run, a fast getaway, or be able to fight. Our breathing will sometimes change, become a little quicker, a little more shallow. For some people, they will truly see red. And it seems like that might be, something to do with how the blood is moving in that fight or flight response. So with all of those things happening in your body in a split second, we do very well when we get to know our own fight, flight, freeze response. Now, here's another thing that happens with the fight, flight, freeze response. It doesn't just happen when we have a threat from outside ourselves. It happens when we have a threat internally as well. And all that needs to be is just a thought. If I have the thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to feed my kids for this whole month. Boom, fight, flight, freeze response will happen right now. If I have a thought that I'm in danger, or something that creates anxiety, I don't want to go outside. Maybe I'm afraid of the pandemic. Maybe I'm afraid of being sick. Maybe I'm afraid of whatever. That can create that fight, flight, freeze response internally. And now you can be giving yourself a shot of adrenaline every minute of every day, almost. I kind of wonder, for some people that you see who are really, really edgy, I feel like it's a bit of an adrenaline overdose for them. So if you've given yourself that fight, flight, freeze response reaction so often, and your body is full of adrenaline, and you haven't learned how to balance your thinking and balance that adrenaline out, that's going to create the situation where you're jumpy, where you're angry, where things just feel extreme. And so it's just really important to acknowledge all of the good that can come out of just this one tool, and really learning what sets off your fight, flight, freeze response and what brings it back to level. And the sooner that you can notice that fight, flight, freeze response, the quicker you can bring yourself back to normal. Once you really understand that within yourself, it is a huge advantage to moving yourself forward in every kind of way, because anything that you're scared of, public speaking, whatever, leaving your house, anything. If you can manage that fight, flight, freeze response, you can manage whatever situation you find yourself in. Okay. So because this is a YouTube live, we can't really go through these in conversation. And so I just want to point out that for some people, you can really identify things that create triggers in you. And again, you're gonna just have a look at your fight, flight, freeze response. When does that happen? And kind of see where that goes. The more you know what your triggers are, the more you know what fight, flight, freeze responses you need to manage. So how do these emotions develop, and how do they get held in? Past experiences. When people have been treated unfairly, especially in childhood, that can be easily carried over into adulthood as an anger. But underneath that anger emotion is really just wanting to be accepted, wanting to be treated fairly and see other people treated fairly. Trauma creates an emotion loop that can happen, that can really keep us seated in those emotions, and sometimes we need extra help to get out of those trauma emotions. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. That is just a reality and a fact. And we're actually going to watch a video, and I'm crossing my fingers. I can't hear the sound when I share. So I'm crossing my fingers that the sound is going to share. But you know what? I'm also going to put this link into the chat box, because that's the video I'll be sharing. So we're going to watch a video about trauma memories versus regular memories and how those process. And let's see. Again, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm crossing my fingers that this is going to work. I've got share system audio clicked on. And we're going to go back here, and in this manual. So again, if you want this manual, email me, kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com, and I will absolutely send it to you. There's a piece of this video from 3:33 to 3:44 that is unnecessarily graphic. So as long as I'm able to, I'm going to push it forward in that spot. So let's watch.
We need to take a statement so we can establish what happened on Saturday night.
What time did you get back to David's flat?
What time? I don't know.
Can you give us an estimate?
I don't remember.
Would your pals remember what time you left the club?
He seemed nice.
She didn't remember much, did she?
I know. And now we've got to waste more time on a daft lecture. We know how to deal with victims. We've had years of experience.
Well, some of us have had more years than others.
I'm in my prime, I'll have you know.
That'll be right.
Today's session is about trauma. The latest in brain science will help you in your work. I'll start with a tour of the parts of the human brain. The reptilian brain maintains basic bodily functions. The limbic system is also instinctive. It deals with fear and pleasure. For example, you pat a dog, it senses pleasure, and without thinking, wags its tail. The neocortex is the site of logic, imagination, planning, and control. It's more sophisticated, but because it's conscious, it's slower than the older parts of the brain. The amygdala is a key part of the limbic system. It has one job: to sense danger and set off the alarm. When it's a matter of survival, the primitive parts of the brain override the conscious part. There are 3 possible survival responses: fight, flight, or the one that people don't think of, freeze. When the alarm goes off, blood and oxygen are diverted to muscles, adrenaline floods the body, and all systems that are not crucial to survival are switched off. Normally, the job of the hippocampus is to file memories so you can retrieve them later. But in times of danger, it stops filing memories, which makes it harder to gather evidence later on. Instead, the hippocampus switches to pumping cortisol. What's useful about cortisol is it stops us feeling pain, so we can focus on survival. Can anyone give me an example?
A farming accident where a man carried his own arm for a mile without feeling any pain?
Yes, excellent example. It is an evolutionary safety mechanism which is fast and instinctive. In essence, it's our body's very clever way of protecting us. To recap, an example of the 3 parts of the brain working together. You're standing at a bar. Your reptilian brain is keeping your heart beating. You're enjoying the pleasure of a nice pint with your limbic system. You're using your neocortex to work out if there's time for another before the last train. What could happen to make the amygdala kick in? What if this happened? The way you'd respond would depend not on your logical brain, but on your instinctive brain. Being glassed and alarmed by something beyond their control. The survival brain takes over the rational brain. It can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, with symptoms that last at least a month. Vicarious or secondary trauma is something you may experience if you deal with incidents such as rape or sudden death, or think of Lockerbie, Dunblane. You're not superheroes. Having a brain makes you all vulnerable to secondary trauma. It's important to understand that when trauma occurs again and again, it can become complex PTSD, such as in domestic abuse or child sexual abuse. The alarm system in the brain becomes jammed. Memories are stuck in the limbic system, so a trigger can set off the alarm. The trigger could be anything: a colour, a smell, a sound, a sensation. Now, the indicators of trauma. What should you be looking out for?
Depression. Crying a lot?
Yes, that's one response. And at the other end of the spectrum, total numbness.
Nightmares. Flashbacks?
Stress.
Good, yes. And they may feel sick. Also, shame, feelings of guilt, inability to enjoy sex, social isolation, triggers. People often feel overwhelmed by the symptoms of trauma. This can lead to using alcohol or other drugs to block out memories, or self-harm, or dissociation when a person's mind detaches from reality. Indicators can be specific to the type of trauma. Say, dental problems, when someone who was orally abused avoids going to the dentist. A victim of abuse might bond strongly to her abuser. This is known as traumatic bonding, or Stockholm syndrome. And jumbled up memory, when a person's normal recording of memories doesn't work. Can you recall any times you've seen that symptom?
What time? I don't know.
A traumatized person may not seem like her usual self, or may be hypervigilant, on edge, or being startled by everyday things. Everyone is different. You never know what impact trauma will have. Symptoms can change from day to day. So what does all this mean in practice, in your job? A traumatized person's brain is protecting them, but that normal human response of self-protection can get in the way of evidence gathering. The US military has developed new trauma-informed interviewing techniques that you can use to work around this. Research shows that if someone seems vacant, they could be distracted by their traumatic memories. Try to ground them by asking a simple, non-patronizing question such as, "Are you thirsty? Do you want a glass of water?" This can help bring them back to the here and now. Don't expect a logical, linear story. Ask, "What can you recall just now?" Find out what the victim physically felt or saw. Working this way, from the instinctive sensory parts towards the logical parts of the brain, you'll get more results. In conclusion, 4 things for you to take away. Trauma response is the brain in survival mode. Repeated abuse can make trauma symptoms worse. In response to trauma, people will behave in unexpected ways. Remember, trauma is a normal human response to abnormal events.
We know that you've gone through a really painful experience, but we need to take a statement to understand what happened on Saturday night.
Are you able to tell us anything that you remember about his flat? Anything at all?
A dog. Barking.
Are you able to remember any physical sensations or feelings that you had?
Cigarette smoke. Can smell it now.
What was going through your mind?
I couldn't understand it. I just couldn't move or even scream.
To freeze is a perfectly normal response. So you start with the memories, you don't start at the beginning. You have to engage with our feelings to get to the facts.
Makes sense. Check you, Professor, getting all sciencey on us.
Well, if it gets us usable evidence.
There's life in the old dog yet.
Oi.
All right. I hope that worked. If it didn't work, the link is in the chat. Skip over that part. As it plays, again, this is my first time doing this, so I have to go back and watch the video. But as it plays, I think it's sending the sound to you, and I'm not getting it. So I hope that worked. So point being that if you've experienced trauma, that's going to create huge amounts of emotion within you that need to be talked about in a safe way. One of the things that I do recommend for people who have experienced trauma is to find a safe place to talk about it, using all 5 of their senses. What did you see? What did you smell? What did you hear? What did you touch? What kind of taste was in your mouth? Because the way that I understand it, what happens is when you have a regular experience, your brain sorts that experience into the right places. When you have a traumatic experience, it saves it all together in that reptilian brain. And then when it comes out all at once. And it can come out in really severe, strong, high emotion that can feel really detrimental to people. So to have that safe space where you can talk about it in terms of all of your senses can be really helpful to working through that trauma. Okay. Sorry, I lost the manual for a minute. Gotta find it. I'll find it. So it happens when you click a link straight from a page. Okay, so I want to talk about meditation. Now, in your, remember I said that you were going to keep that medicine wheel beside you, make your own little medicine wheel beside you. Talking about emotions is the tool that we just went through. And you can put that in your medicine wheel in the spot that it feels most right for you, spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical. It might seem like somebody should say, oh, it should be in emotional, but not necessarily. You might feel it in physical or in spiritual. So talking about emotions, write that down somewhere on your medicine wheel. So now we're going to talk about the next tool that you are also going to write down on your medicine wheel, and that is meditation. With meditation, what you're essentially doing is learning internally ways to calm your fight, flight, and freeze response for a long-term solution. Now, people create sometimes unreasonable expectations for themselves around meditation. And so I want to talk about that. I'm not going to give you any direct advice about how to do meditations or what meditations you should do, but I'm going to talk about how you can figure that out. So there's a few different kinds of meditation. There's guided meditation where you are just putting on headphones and listening and visualizing whatever they are asking you to visualize. There is mantra meditation, where it's just you and you're repeating the same mantra over and over again. There's many people who just do straight up walking meditation, and that might just be a walk through the park. Or there's also walking meditations that you can listen to that are like a guided meditation, but you're walking while you do it. So, and you know what, even some of our more unhealthy habits, at times people will think that they are sort of a meditation moment. So, whether that's for somebody having a cigarette or having a drink or whatever, they will sometimes feel that that is a meditation moment. So my encouragement is to really look at shifting from unhealthy meditation into healthy meditation that you are mindful about. Now, the other thing that happens with meditation is people sometimes are like, well, I don't have time for that. Or I don't like, I just don't like it. I can't sit still with my mind like that or make my mind do something. So what I want to do here, I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm just going to show you, I'm going to give you some ideas of how to find the meditations that work for you. Okay, so I'm going to click this. I honestly don't even know which meditation I put into this book. We're not going to do this one because it's too lengthy for a little 2-hour session. Yeah. So this one in here is one of my favorites by Sylvia Browne, and that's why I put it in there, is because it is one of my favorites. But let's just do a couple of searches here. Look at that. Emotion management is live right now at the top of my screen. Meditation, let's say 1 minute and see what we get. So for people who say, I can't do this, I don't want to do it for that long. Boom. There's a whole bunch of 1 minute meditations. If you listen to something and you're like, no, I do not like this, I hate this, I highly recommend you pick another one, because sometimes it's just the person's voice. So let's try meditation for, and look, you can see all of the things that pop up. Well, you can't see because my screen is not big enough, so I'm going to read them to you. Meditation for sleep. Meditation guided, meditation music, meditation for manifesting, meditation 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, meditation for kids, meditation for anxiety, meditation for beginners. Let's have a look at that one. 10-minute meditation for beginners. How to meditate for beginners. I'm going to talk a little bit about the how-tos right now. So how to meditate. Don't follow anybody else's instructions except for your own. That's how to meditate. So you might be listening to a meditation that says, sit up in your chair with your feet flat on the floor. But you might prefer to be cross-legged, or you might prefer to be laying down. Just do that. Just do that. A lot of times people will be like, well, I was in the middle of a meditation and then my ear got itchy and I scratched it and I lost everything that I'd done. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. If you have an itch, just scratch it and get your mind back onto whatever your meditation is. There's no wrong way to do this. A meditation session will not be the same twice. Sometimes you might feel like, gee, that was really difficult to stay involved in that meditation. Sometimes you might feel like, wow, that was really a deep meditation. It doesn't matter. It's okay that it's different each time you do it. Now I'm going to share the screen again, and I'm going to get a little improper here, a little improper. So if you do not like a little improper, then I would suggest that you don't go away for long, but just maybe turn away for just a minute. Watch this. I can even search meditation for orgasm and come up with meditations. Who knew? And then sometimes I have people who say, F that, meditation is not for me. And so I go into YouTube and I search F that. And this top one is my absolute favorite. It's only 2.5 minutes long. There is a longer version that you can get. And like I said, there is literally a meditation for everyone. Okay, come back if you thought that was too improper. We're ready for you to return now. Let me get back to the manual. Boy, I really went on a tangent. I had to click the back button a lot of times. Okay. Write meditation on your medicine wheel. And while we're at it, before we move into the next tool, I want you just to really think about your own things that you already have that belong on the medicine wheel. So things like exercise, whatever that is for you, prayer, smudging, sweat, anything that you do right now to keep yourself in that balanced space right on your medicine wheel. And again, you decide whether it goes in the category of spiritual or emotional or mental or physical or more than one of those. Okay, here is the next tool that I'm going to teach that's going to go on your medicine wheel. Let me share my screen again. All right, this is the anxiety equation. Now, some of these tools would be considered cognitive behavioral therapy tools, CBT. And a lot of them I learned in my 20s when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I was suicidal for a time. I was really in a dark place. Went for counseling, was told, here you are, you're in the social work program. You already know everything you need to know about depression and anxiety. Here's your medicine. Come back and check in. Let us know how you're doing. And I just left there so discouraged because I was like, holy, if I already know everything that I need to know about anxiety and depression, then what does that say about this condition that I'm in? Why would I have anxiety and depression if I already know everything I need to know? And so I wasn't impressed with that response. And I set out to find some things that would help me. And then also along my journey was looking at, knowing that at some point I'm going to use these things to help other people. I really wanted to find things that applied broadly and quickly and were smart. And so one of the books that I found was called Mind Over Mood, Changing the Way You Feel by Changing the Way You Think, by Christine Podesky and Dennis Greenberger. And it's a workbook, and it goes through how to create a thought record. And we're going to talk about thought records as well in a little bit. And then I was really honored to be able to go for training with Christine Podesky. And at this training, she just, on a whiteboard, wrote this equation with her marker like it wasn't going to completely change my life. And it did completely change my life. So I teach this, I talk about this frequently. I believe that this is a tool that everyone needs to have in their back pocket. And so here's what this is saying. You see in the kind of the middle of the page there. In fact, let me make it a little bigger. Okay, nice. A little centered maybe. There we go. So, anxiety, anytime you have anxiety, you're going to have these two things. You have a high estimation of the danger that you're going to face, and you have a low estimation of your coping skills and resources to deal with it. So let's just look at some typical anxieties. Winter driving. People with a fear of winter driving, anxiety around winter driving, believe that it's really dangerous, and they believe that they are not able to do it. They don't have the coping skills and resources to do it. Let's talk about phobias. Agoraphobia, can't leave my house. People with agoraphobia have a high estimation of danger of what's out there. And then they have a low estimation of their ability to cope with whatever they run into out there. You give me any kind of anxiety and it will fit with this anxiety equation. So now, how do we use this then to deal with that anxiety? And the reason we're talking about anxiety is a lot of times anxiety underlies fear, or anxiety underlies anger, pardon me. Anxiety and fear underlie anger a lot of the time. So in order to use this to resolve that anxiety, you're going to first look at the estimation of danger and ask, am I estimating the danger too high? Now, let me tell you, when you are someone with anxiety, if it's a real, grab on and hold you kind of anxiety, you're not going to shift on this top part. I have anxiety about winter driving. If somebody says to me, you don't, that's silly. You don't have to have that. It's not even dangerous, Kelly. Don't know why you're anxious about that. Well, that is not shifting my estimation of the danger. And oftentimes estimation of danger is based on past experience. So if you had a bad experience in some area, then, what somebody says or what you tell yourself isn't necessarily just going to shift that estimation of danger into being lower. So staying on the train of winter driving, staying on the highway of winter driving, high estimation of danger. Yes, I maintain that high estimation of danger. Now I move to the bottom. What can I shift here? If I stay anxious, I believe that I really don't have what it takes to cope with this. I don't have the skills. I don't have the resources that it takes to cope with this situation. So now I start looking at that. Well, wait a minute. What coping skills and resources do I have? What coping skills and resources can I get? And I start making a list. And so for winter driving, I haven't shifted that high estimation of danger. I still believe it's dangerous. But now I start looking at, well, I can make sure I have good tires. I can make sure that my phone is charged, that I have a charger with me. I can make sure that I have, good music or good podcasts to kind of distract me from that. I can use my golden light in the meditation that we didn't listen to, that's in the manual. One of the things that is talked about in there is that we all have a golden light that we can just put anywhere we want to keep us safe. So while I'm driving, I can put my golden light in the passenger seat. I can recognize. So some of these things are just thoughts and ideas. I can recognize that I can, if I'm driving slow in winter and there's people behind me and I'm uncomfortable, I can just pretend I'm turning right and pull off to turn right and let everybody go past me and get in behind. I can recognize and remember that, sometimes people don't get to where they're going. So if I have a meeting or I'm speaking or whatever and bad weather hits and I'm on the side of the road, well, you know what? Things go on. Things go on. It's okay if we don't make it to every single thing. So some of these things are thoughts. Some of them are tool or concrete items like tires, not concrete, or rubber items like tires. I might just need to know that I can have a hot bubble bath when I get home. So some of these are really small. Some of these are really big. I might want to take a class on defensive driving or driving on ice. Those are really big ones. So you're just taking this idea and brainstorming that list of coping skills and resources, the ones you have and also the ones you can get. And that becomes your plan to manage that anxiety. When you've used that plan enough times, the high estimation of danger does actually come down. But it's the plan that creates the environment where that high estimation of danger perception can come down. Absolutely have a look at this. If anybody for the next 50 minutes that we're going to be on here, if anybody has a specific anxiety that you want to see if this anxiety equation will work with, throw it into the comments, and I'm happy to use anyone's suggestion to work through that anxiety equation. And you are going to write anxiety equation on the medicine wheel that you have beside you. So again, going back to anxiety in general, there's another 3 questions that you can ask yourself. So what is the worst thing that can happen? Is it as bad as you thought it would be? And what do you need to do to handle it? Sometimes for people, I don't say to try to avoid the anxiety. Sometimes I'm just like, well, make a plan for it, you know? So if you're, at one point I realized that I was afraid of flying. And then I realized I wasn't really afraid of flying. I was afraid of crashing. And then I realized, well, I wasn't really afraid of crashing as much as I was afraid of dying. And then I realized, well, I wasn't really afraid of dying as much as I was afraid of dying with things left unsaid. And so what I started doing was writing letters to special people like my children before I would go on a flight. So that's an example of answering those 3 questions to work through your anxiety. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I would die without things being left unsaid, or with things being left unsaid. Is it as bad as I thought it would be? Yeah, I think it's terrible. What do I need to do to handle it? Make sure that I don't leave things unsaid. In the manual, again, email me if you want the manual, which I promise that you do. Send me an email to kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com and I will get this manual to you. So within the manual, you'll find some examples of how to use that anxiety equation. You will find definitions of aggressive, passive, passive-aggressive, and assertive, with assertive being where we want to be. And we'll maybe come back to that towards the end of this video. The main thing that I want you to know about these ways of behaving, they are not personalities. They are ways of behaving. And so sometimes we use different ways of behaving in different situations. So you might be passive with a spouse, but aggressive with your mother. Or you might be passive aggressive at work and aggressive at home. Or you might be assertive at work and aggressive at home. And so these are, really things that you can look at and be like, how am I behaving against the way that these are measured in terms of respect. Again, if there's time at the end, we'll come back to that. Tapping. So I have a friend who teaches this so beautifully, and Florence Large, I think maybe I'll invite her to make a little video and insert it in here. That would be fantastic and amazing. When I teach things, I make every effort to simplify them. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's not good. Kind of depends on what you need and what you're looking for. I want to see which video I put here for tapping. Let's see. I think we'll probably just watch it, but I want to explain a little more first. Oh, good heavens. Okay. So what I searched in here is tapping technique. And I really want you to know that this is available for you as well. I think we're going to grab this first one. I haven't watched it, but let's go for it. It's a 6-minute one, and I highly recommend you follow. I'm going to be following along, and I highly recommend that you follow along as well. I feel worried that I didn't do. Let me just stop sharing. I don't know if I said I was sharing sound. Share system audio.
So if you're not driving in the car, just close your eyes and take a gentle breath in. And let it go. And we're going to do another one, and I want you to notice just how full your breath is. So is it full and going down deep into your belly, relaxed and open, or is it tight and constricted and up high in your chest? So go ahead and breathe in and just notice. And as you tune into that breath, just tune into all the anxiety that you might be feeling. How much anxiety is in your breath? How much stress are you feeling right now? And give it a number on a scale of 0 to 10. So on the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm about everything that's happening, just give it a number.
And would this number be between 1 and 10?
Yes, 0 to 10. Absolutely.
0 to 10. Excellent.
Yeah. And pick whatever number, and then we'll gently open our eyes and do some tapping. So I'm going to lead you through. Marie, will you be my echo?
Oh, of course. Does it matter what side we're going on?
Nope. Whatever feels comfortable for you.
Great.
And you can do eyes opened or closed if you know the points and you like to go deeper and close them. And then I'm going to do the face points for this demonstration. If you're out and about and you pulled over to tap with us and you haven't washed your hands, just skip them. The process works great. Skipping points. It's not.
Also, too, not to interrupt you, but for the folks listening on the podcast, will you talk us through just in case they can't see the visual?
You got it. So we're starting the tap on the side of the hand. It's called the karate chop point. It's below the pinky on the outside of the hand. So you're taking 4 fingers of one hand and tapping gently, whatever hand feels comfortable.
And should you switch hands? By the way, I'm going to be the annoying person asking all the questions.
Do. I love it.
Because I know that my audience is going to be like, what are we doing? How do I do it? Am I doing it wrong?
Yeah,
Great.
You don't need to switch hands, whatever feels comfortable for you. Yeah.
Great.
So we're tapping gently. We're tuning into that breath, and repeat after me. Even though I feel so much anxiety.
Even though I feel so much anxiety.
About everything that's going on.
About everything that's going on.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
And we're still on the side of the hand, tapping gently, even though this feels so overwhelming.
Even though this feels so overwhelming.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
And one more time, still tapping on the side of the hand, even though I'm holding so much stress in my body.
Even though I'm holding so much stress in my body.
It's safe to let it go now.
It's safe to let it go now.
Now we're going to tap through the points. The first point is the eyebrow. Inside of the eyebrow, right where the hair ends and it meets the nose, you can use 2 fingers of one hand, the other hand, or both hands. The meridians run down both sides of the body. And you're just tapping gently and tuning in to that stress and anxiety. All we're doing in this moment is we're actually looking to fire that amygdala because we want to counteract it with that calming signal. So just tapping gently and breathing gently. Now we'll move to the side of the eye. It's not at the temple, a little further in, right on the bone. Again, one side or both sides. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Take a moment to think about just how overwhelmed you are. There is so much going on, and that's okay.
There's so much going on, and that's okay.
Under the eye, right on the bone. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
Under the nose. And
Okay,
it's safe to begin to let it go.
And it's safe to begin to let it go. I hope everyone listening to the podcast right now comes and watches the visual. Just had to say.
Under the mouth, you're going to go above the chin, below the lip, and that little crease in there, we're tapping with 2 fingers, tapping gently. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
For the collarbone point, feel for the 2 little bones of the collarbone. Just go about 1 inch right below it. You can tap with all 10 fingers of both hands. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
Underneath the arm, 3 inches underneath the armpit, either side of the body, right on the broad line for women. It's safe to feel all the stress.
It's safe to feel all the stress.
We'll move back to the top of the head, and it's safe to let it go.
And it's safe to let it go.
Moving back to the eyebrow, it's safe to breathe deeply.
It's safe to breathe deeply.
Side of the eye, I acknowledge all my stress.
I acknowledge all my stress.
Under the eye, and I begin to feel safe in my body.
And I begin to feel safe in my body.
Under the nose, the more I relax.
The more I relax.
Under the mouth, the more my body heals.
The more my body heals.
Collarbone, the more I relax.
The more I relax.
Under the arm, the more my body heals.
The more my body heals.
Top of the head, letting go now.
Letting go now.
And you can gently stop tapping and take a breath in and let it go. So that was 2 very quick rounds, and now we tune back in. So we say first the breath. So go ahead and just take a breath. I know, I tapped earlier this morning, but I've had a busy day, and even in that 2 rounds, I felt my breath deepen back down into my stomach. So just tune into that. And then also notice that anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm. It was a 10 or a 9 or an 8. What's the new number? What came up? And the tapping process is continuing to do that. So we did 2 rounds for demonstration. A lot of the meditations on our app are anywhere between 8 and 12 minutes to go a little bit deeper. And then what happens with the tapping process also too is that we start doing it and we think we're worried about one thing, but all of a sudden we realize, oh, you know what? It's really this thing that I'm worried about. So it's almost like self-therapy where it like lets our unconscious mind give us the truth about what we're feeling, what's happening, and helps us to let go.
Hey, so I was tapping along, but I've never watched that video before, and I am not actually getting sound when I share with you, so that is a little bit funny. But also okay. I hope you got sound, and I hope it was a good video. So I'm going to show you now my simplified version of tapping. I'm just going to share the screen for a minute and then take it off while I do it. So I'll do a round 1, a round 2, a round 3 if I need it. And I keep my statement the same. In that video, you saw them using a bit of a script. That's okay. You can go online and you can search scripts for tapping and you'll find them. When I do it, I just say the same thing over and over. And so I'm going to invite you to do this with me. I'm going to do I'm going to say that this one is going to be for confidence. So we're going to do 3 rounds, and this is for confidence. And you can see that the way I do my work is to fly by the seat of my pants. A little bit more. The other thing is that when you have somebody teaching you tapping, some will say 2 hands, some will say 1 hand. It doesn't matter, as long as you know which points you're tapping, and we're going to go through them as I do this with you. It's fine. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. So we're going to start with our point here on our hand, and the statement that I'm going to use is, I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. And then we go to the edge of the, right here, top of the eyebrow. You can do 2 or you can do 1. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Outer eye. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Right here beside your nose. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Right above the lip. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Chin. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Collarbone points. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Right in your ribs on a woman about where your bra is hitting. I do not always feel confident, and I accept that about myself. Round 2. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. I do not always feel confident, and I release this. 3rd round. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. I allow myself to feel confident. I embrace this. And that's it. That's 3 rounds of tapping. I left the head out on the first 2 rounds. No reason for that. I just didn't remember, and it's okay, because this does not need to be done in a perfect way. Amazingly helpful, you guys. I can't explain it. I can't. I'm not trained in the science of explaining it, but I absolutely find it helpful, and I wanted to share it with you. And again, if you want to take it further, there's all kinds of information online that will help you with that. Okay. Right tapping on your medicine wheel. And I am going to share screen again. All right. So we're moving into some positive thinking and balanced thinking work for the last half an hour of this session. Affirmations are amazing, and I'm going to tell you how to create them so they will work for you. And I've put some affirmations that you can cut up and post around in this manual. Again, if you want this manual, email me, kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com, and I will get it to you. But you can download a million affirmations from the internet. But if you want to find the affirmations that really hook you. The way to do that is to identify the negative thoughts you're having. So I'm just gonna throw out a few common ones. Parents, a mom will almost always at some point in her parenting life have the thought, I'm a bad mom. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm a loser, I don't do anything right. These are some of the really common automatic thoughts that happen for us. And we have thousands of automatic thoughts a day. If you've ever been in a situation where, you're or you wake up and everything's good and your clothes fit right and you're happy and you walk out the door and you get to work and you are miserable and you look in the mirror and you think you're ugly, what happened? What happened in between? A lot of times it is a negative automatic thought that we haven't even identified. It just kind of comes and goes, and it can totally change our mood. It can totally change our direction for the day. And we don't even notice it. We don't even know what it was. So in order to make the best affirmations, start noticing what those automatic thoughts are and create your affirmation to be the opposite of it, and create your affirmation to be active. So I am, not I'm going to be, or I'm working at it, or I want to be. I am. If your affirmation is I am weak, if your negative automatic thought is I am weak, then your affirmation is I am strong. If your negative automatic thought is I am fat, then your affirmation is my body works perfectly. If your negative automatic thought is I'm a loser, the affirmation is I am a winner. So you're just looking for an affirmation to be active, and you're looking for it to be the opposite of your automatic thought. Once you've got those affirmations, write them down and post them up everywhere. Some people will say, well, I don't, that's embarrassing. I don't want to put that out there for everyone to see. And I've noticed the weirdest thing with affirmations around my house. It's like the people who are meant to see them, and for other people, they don't even notice them. They don't comment on them. It's like they don't exist. So I don't know. It's interesting. I say post them everywhere. Post them everywhere, and at some point you might have somebody say, well, what is this? And then you get to explain, and then they get to post their affirmations everywhere as well, which is amazing. Okay. Let's see. We've got 28 minutes. I'm doing a quick, see, you see my eyes shifting. It's because I'm scrolling through this manual and I'm trying to decide if we need to go through all of the different types of inaccurate thinking. And my answer is kind of, yeah, we kind of do. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to that. Now keep in mind that these tools that we're talking about, these are all in the No Such Thing as a Bully system as well. And in No Such Thing as a Bully, we say we all use victim response. We all use bully actions. We all use victim responses. One set of skills solves both. And that is what we are teaching here. It's all stuff that strengthens you. It just strengthens you. And so the stronger you are, when you are strong, your emotions are balanced. You have control over your reactions and your responses. You can identify your thinking and have insight into changes that you want to make in your thinking. That's what this stuff's all about. So I'm going to do a share screen again, and we're going to have a quick look at these types of inaccurate thinking. Okay, quick look. And this isn't all of the types of inaccurate thinking. There's sort of variations of this and other ones that we could probably put in here. But so black and white thinking. When you're thinking black and white, things are all good, all bad, and you're not seeing the gray in there. And so to overcome that type of inaccurate thinking, you can train yourself to see things in pieces. So I'm 30% angry, 20% hurt, 50% disappointed might be a way to do that. I'm scared, but I have a feeling of being able to overcome this. So kind of being able to combine emotions and recognize that situations and emotions are not all black and white. Negative focus. So at times we get caught up in seeing only the negative things about people or the negative parts about situations. So in order to overcome this, it just takes a shift of focus. So start looking at what are the strategies to overcome the problem instead of the problem itself, or start looking at what do I have to be grateful for in this situation, or what is a good thing about this person, and just those little pieces can start to shift you out of that negative focus. Overgeneralizations. If you are a person who uses a lot of words like always and never, those kinds of phrases can actually get our fight and flight response going and get other people's responses going as well. So it's important, if you are using the words always and never and other words that are so concrete like that, to check it out. Is that true? If you say somebody always does something, ask yourself, is that accurate? Do they always do something? If I come to my kid and I say, you never take out the garbage, I am going to get his fight, flight, and freeze response going right away. And he's already thinking about all the times he did take out the garbage and how wrong I am. So I'm starting off in a space where I can't really win or get what I need in the situation. Melodramatic thinking. Oh, this is such a catastrophe. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Again, statements like this will get your fight, flight, and freeze response going and become kind of a negative, inaccurate thinking pattern that can follow you around. And so in order to pull yourself out of this, just start looking at the facts. What are the facts that support that this is a tragedy? What are the chances it will come true? What facts indicate this is not a tragedy? Assumptions. So it's human nature. It is absolutely human nature to make assumptions, and it's okay. What we need to be able to do is acknowledge when we are making assumptions. And so we need to ask, what supports my belief that that's true? What doesn't support my belief that that's true? A lot of times we make assumptions about what people are thinking about us. And then that kind of stunts the way we move forward, pulls us away from our own heartfelt goals and intentions and what we think we need to do. And we might not even know if it's true what they're thinking. We just kind of let our own assumptions and other people's assumptions take us for a ride. So it's important just to check out the facts within those assumptions and beliefs. Too much control and lack of control. There is a full chapter towards the end of the No Such Thing as a Bully System that talks about assessing what you actually have control over. And it's not that much. It's really yourself. So feeling like you have to control others or feeling like you have no control, those are both inaccurate. And there's a kind of a middle space there where we can stay more balanced. Shoulds. The word should is just guilt provoking. It's you cannot show me, I don't think. Maybe you can. Give it a try. Can you show me a sentence that uses the word should that does not have guilt implied into it? So I like to see should be replaced with words like could, will, won't, rather than should. Make me happy. Others do not make you happy. Everyone must love me. Everyone will not love you. Unevidenced conclusions. I'm going to take that one out because it's a lot like assumptions. Mistakes mean I'm incompetent. So if you are having that inaccurate thought that your mistakes are bad, that's going to kind of throw you off your track. People are bad. The world is cruel. This way of thinking leads to stress, anxiety, and worry. Overthinking danger is another way of thinking inaccurately. Avoiding is best. I am weak, or other negative automatic messages. Again, the past controls me. Every problem has a perfect solution. Anger is a secondary emotion. Comparing yourself to others. There's a lot here. There's a lot here that we're not going to get right through in this amount of time. And so I am again going to encourage you that if you want a copy of this manual so that you can have a read through all of those types of inaccurate thinking, email me, kelly@nosuchthingasabully.com. If you read through those types of inaccurate thinking and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, I have all of them, don't worry because I wrote all of them. Okay. This piece in that, this is a horizontal page, so it's not going to show all the way through, but we'll figure it out. This is a thought record. In the manual, this is a full-on, complete thought record, the way the book Mind Over Mood teaches you to do it. I'm going to teach you a shorter form after this, but I don't want to disregard this because this is the tool that really got me on the right path and pulled me out of those inaccurate thinking patterns. And so I want you to know that this is in here. I want you to know a little bit about what it means, and I want you to know where to get more information about it. So the book Mind Over Mood, each chapter teaches one of these columns. So it starts out by looking at, what are the situations that increase that high emotion for you, whatever it is, whether it's sadness or anxiety or fear or whatever. So who were you with? What were you doing? What was it? Where were you? And then we want to look at what's the mood you had while that was going on. And you can give it an intensity rating of 0 to 100%, with 100% being the most of that you could ever possibly feel. Then you're going to look at what are the automatic thoughts that were going through your head. And so we talked a little bit about negative automatic thoughts. I'm a loser. I don't do anything right. I'm a bad mom, whatever that might be. So if you have trouble coming up with your automatic thoughts, then you go to this next page in the manual and you start asking yourself some of these questions. What was going through my mind just before I started to feel like this? What does this mean about me, my life, my future? What am I worried might happen? Scrolling back up to this page. So now you're going to pick one automatic thought to work with for the rest of this thought record. And you're going to look for evidence that supports that hot thought. We call that the hot thought. You think like that's the one, the thought you pick is the one that burns the most. The one that just makes you go, oh, I hate that thought. And then you're going to look for what supports that hot thought. What's true about it? If you have trouble doing that, ask a friend. Make sure that the evidence that supports that hot thought, make sure that it is factual, not just feelings. So if the hot thought is, I'm a bad mom, well, okay, what evidence supports that? What facts support that? Then you move to evidence that does not support the hot thought. If you have trouble with that one, Scroll down, turn the page, scroll down, however you're looking at this. Questions to help find evidence that does not support the automatic thought. My best friend had this thought. What would I tell them? Have I had any experiences that show this thought is not completely true all the time? Then, once you've looked at evidence that supports the hot thought, evidence that does not support the hot thought, you're going to take those two columns and use all those facts to create an alternative, balanced thought. Okay. Excuse me. Then you're going to rate your mood now. If it's not any better, that means you're going to go back to those first automatic thoughts right here and pick another one and do the same thing. You might not have hit on exactly the automatic thought that feels the worst. And so when you go back and kind of reevaluate that and do a few more, you'll figure it out. You'll find the one that all of a sudden you go, oh, that really changes my mood. Okay. Here's the shortcut. Right there. So when I put together the No Such Thing as a Bully system, I wanted it to reach all ages. I wanted it to be easy. And I wanted it to be quickly effective. And so this is my version of the thought record that we just went through. And I ask people to grab whatever that automatic thought is. Just grab it. I'm a loser. Grab it. What's true about that? What's true about that thought? What's true about you are a loser? What's not true about you are a loser? And what is a different way to think about it? Using the answers to both of those questions. When you master this, and it can very easily be mastered with some consistency, putting it at the front of your mind. By the way, add thought record onto the medicine wheel drawing that you're going to post onto your fridge. Add thought record on there. It's very difficult to go back to thinking that's not balanced once you've mastered the way to do this. I remember the most kind of extreme example in my adulthood that I had for myself with using this in a way that I just never would have expected it to fit. When my dad died, my automatic thought was, this is the worst thing. This is the worst thing that ever could have happened or ever could happen in my life. This is 100% absolutely the worst thing. Okay. Well, what's true about that? Well, my dad's dead. Okay. What's not true about it? Well, he used to drive a lot without enough oxygen, and there were times that there were risks that he would hurt somebody else, and he never did. So that would have been worse. What's a different way to think about it? My dad is dead. He kept other people safe. I'll get through this. So it really, it's a way of thinking that really can, in any situation, create some balance, calm that fight, flight, and freeze response, and move you ahead. Last page in the manual. Here are some examples of switches that you can use. I am broken becomes I am whole. I am ugly or fat. I've done a little bit differently because those are not factual to start with. They're perceptive. So I accept myself the way I am became the affirmation for that one. I am worthless. I am valuable. I am a loser. I am a winner. I am unhealthy. I am healthy. I am forgetful. I remember. I am unlovable. I am lovable. I am weak. I am strong. So you see how that works. And when you can point those affirmations to your particular automatic thoughts, and don't judge yourself for having inaccurate automatic thoughts. Honest to Pete, we all have inaccurate automatic thoughts every single day. Everybody that you look at on the street, everybody that you look at on the screen, everybody has inaccurate automatic thoughts every single day. Don't let the fact that you're human prevent you from enjoying being human. It's just part of the deal. And there's no shame in them. It's just what it is. These affirmations are about others. So those first ones were about I. These ones are about others. So when your thoughts are creating high emotion because of other people, this is the switch. And isn't it interesting that the affirmations are still I affirmations, but the inaccurate thoughts are about others. People are mean. I handle what anyone says with grace. Everyone gossips about me. I control only myself. People do bad things to me. I create positivity. I'm scared of what people will do. I am strong and able. The world is a sick place. I sculpt my environment. The world keeps me poor. I am prosperous. The world makes me angry. I am calm and measured. The world makes me anxious. I use calming tools. So again, the automatic thought is about other, outside oneself, but the affirmation is still about what is going on inside oneself. There is a spot I'm going back to. We've got 8 minutes left. I wanted to really make sure that we got through the balanced thinking tool. Oh, that's okay. Okay. I just thought to myself, we didn't watch the water experiment video, and so I'm just going to say that. Let me just stop the screen for a minute while I talk about this. There are videos by Masaru Emoto. I probably did not do well with that name. He shows what happens to water in different conditions that involve words and emotions. So he'll tape something angry to a cup of water, let it sit overnight, flash freeze it, and take a picture of what that water crystal looks like. Or tape a prayer on water, flash freeze it, see what that prayer does to the water. There are a bunch of really amazing pictures and videos on YouTube about that. And I highly recommend having a look at them. The reason I think that that's important is because our bodies are made up of water. 60%, 70%, maybe 80%, I don't know, different sites say different things. And if water changes based on the words that it's surrounded with, imagine what is happening within us when we are telling ourselves negative words. And so have a little watch of some of those videos. Another one along the same lines, if you search the rice experiment, it's kind of along those same lines. Check it out. Check it out and remind yourself to be so kind to yourself and to the people around you. And also keeping in mind that your psyche, the water in your body, all of those things, they don't know whether you're joking or not when you insult yourself. So even if you are kind of doing a humble insult, your body can't really assess whether you're joking or not. And so you may get the negative results anyway. So speak well of yourself and others. Hilarious. I just realized that my mic was muted for that whole explanation. Okay, let's go through it one more time. So the difference in the way that these are defined. When you are aggressive, you are respecting your own needs, but not the needs of others. When you are passive, you are respecting other people's needs, but not your own. When you're passive aggressive, you're not respecting anyone's needs. And when you are assertive, you are being respectful of yourself and other people. So you're speaking your mind clearly, respectfully. You are unlikely to use bully actions or victim responses. And when you are speaking up right away, when something creates that hurt emotion or whatever emotion happens that is then going to turn into anger, when you're speaking up right away in an assertive way, you are preventing the need for that emotion to move to anger because you're resolving it when it's still sitting at the emotion stage. And that's what all of these tools are for, my friend, is really being able to move you towards that assertive way of behaving and deal with those emotions, manage those emotions before they have any need to turn into anything angry. So again, I ask you to take all of those tools that we talked about, tapping, meditation, thought record, deep breathing. I didn't even do that one, but put it on there. And any of the tools that are ones that you know that you've used all this time, put them all on that medicine wheel, stick that medicine wheel up where you can see it, keep on going back to it and reminding yourself. And again, I just want to say, if you want a copy of that manual, email me, Kelly at nosuchthingasabully.com. If you're watching this now or while it's live or watching it later, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I will be checking out the comments and will be more than happy to answer your question. And if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you.